I will take you through each step, so watch the video till the end if you want to understand the whole process, but you'll see how easy it is. First, we need to be clear about what the present tense is. Now, a tense is a form of the verb that will tell you when something happens. So you have past tense forms for events that have happened or happened. We're not going to worry about that today. We have future events that are going to be expressed in the future tense or future tenses. We're not going to worry about that today. And we're left with the present tense. Now let's have a look at what happens in English, because believe it or not, but in English you have two present tenses. You have the first one, which defines an activity or an action that you normally do as a habit. For example, I play tennis. I play tennis every Sunday. Or normally I play tennis. We talk about the norm, the habit. And this tense is called the simple present. But there is another one. And this one is referring to the present as I'm talking, exactly now. So if I say I'm playing tennis, I imply that I'm playing it now as I'm talking. And this tense is called the present continuous. So there's a big nuance in English between what you normally do and what you do now. Now there's some good news. In French, we only use the simple present. This means that je joue au tennis will be translated as I play tennis and I am playing tennis. The present continuous doesn't exist in French. That's important because sometimes, and I've seen students do that quite often, they're trying to translate word for word. So they start by translating I am playing tennis. So they say je suis, then something else, and that doesn't work. All you have to remember is the simple present. I have already explained the notion of infinitive verbs in previous videos, but I think it's such an important concept and it's key for you to understanding the use of French verbs that I'm coming back to it now. So first of all, we need to agree on what a verb is, and we know that a verb is a word that describes an action. So in this sentence, my brother eats an apple, the action is the action of eating. So here's the verb. And in this sentence, we know two things. We know, first of all, who does the action. We know it's my brother, but we also know when it takes place. We know it's the simple present because it seems to be usual. We know it's now or regular. So it's a simple present. When we know these two things, it means that the verb is conjugated in the present tense. Now, what's an infinitive verb? Well, it's very simple. It is a verb that is not conjugated. So it's a verb for which we don't know when the action is taking place or who is doing the action. All we know is what the action is about. For example, to eat, to play, to watch. That's all we know. We know that to eat is about eating, to play is about playing, but who's doing it and when is it taking place? We don't know. And this is what an infinitive verb is. We know what an infinitive is. The next step is to understand what an ER verb is in French. And it's simple. It's a verb which infinitive form ends in ER. Now, ER verbs are also called first group verbs. They're the largest group of verbs in French, the most common, and they have their specific conjugation pattern, which we will see in a few moments. I'll give you some examples of ER verbs. To play, jouer, to dance, danser, to think, penser, to sing, chanter. So the mark of the infinitive, the ER, is pronounced E. Note that the ER is the equivalent in English of the to. To play is the English infinitive. Jouer with the ER is the French version. Last thing you may need to know, if you are looking up a word in a dictionary, this is the form that you will always find. The form of the verb you will find in a dictionary is always the infinitive. Now we're going to conjugate ER verbs in the present tense. We're going to use them. And first thing we need is to find out who does the action. And for that we need subject pronouns. Now I've done that before, but I'll go through them again. Je, tu, il, elle, on, nous, vous, il, elle. If you're not too sure about this and you want a lesson regarding pronouns, go to this lesson, lesson 4 of the elementary course, where everything is explained with the verb être. If you didn't already know, we can categorize those pronouns. So we can divide them into, first of all, two categories, the singular and the plural. The first category refers to one person. I know in French we've got on, that can mean we, but it's also considered as the singular. And then we've got the plural, nous, vous, il, that refer to more than one person. And in grammar, we call je, I, the first person singular, tu is the second person singular. The rest, il, elle, on, is the third person singular. In the plural, we've got nous. Of course, I include myself in it, so it's going to be the first person plural. Vous is the second person plural, and il and elle is going to be the third person plural. So we know who does the action using our subject pronouns. Now we need to know when the action takes place using the present tense. So let's take an example. Let's take the verb danser. Danser means to dance, and I'm just going to add it to my pronouns. Now let's bear in mind that in the example danser, to dance, the ER is the equivalent of to. So if I say je danser, that would mean I to dance. Tu danser would mean you to dance. It doesn't actually work. We need to get rid of the mark of the infinitive. So we get rid of it. And then what we're left with is called the stem of the verb. The root of the verb after the infinitive is gone. All that is left to do is to add the endings for the present tense to show when the action is taking place. And with je, the correct ending is I. And then we've got with tu is going to be es. With il is going to be I. With elle, I as well. On is going to be I as well because it's the third person singular. With nous, we're going to have ONS, vous is EZ, il is ENT, and elle is ENT as well. Now, very important to remember that most of these are going to be silent endings, and it goes like that in terms of pronunciation. Je danse, tu danses, il danse, elle danse, on danse. Nous dansons, vous dansez, il danse, elle danse. So except for nous and vous, all the others sound the same. In terms of translation, remember, it can mean I dance or I'm dancing, you dance, you're dancing, etc. We are always focusing on the simple present. One little pronunciation tip for you. If you look up a new verb in the dictionary, remember that the letter before the ER of the infinitive is the one that is going to be pronounced. All you have to do after that is to add the sign on if you're using nous or the sign et if you're using vous. For example, demander means to ask, so in the present tense you're going to have je demande, where the D is activated but the E is not pronounced, or nous demandons, and this time I add the on sound. So let's recap. In a nutshell, to use ER verbs in French in the present tense, we take the infinitive verb ending in ER and we knock off the ER, and then we add the correct present tense endings, which are the following. Remember, you'll have everything in the summary sheet for the lesson on my website. Let's practice together and work out the ending of this sentence. You have information at the bottom of the page to help you. So, je joue au football. Note that the E is silent. Je joue. Les enfants chantent. Again, the ENT is silent, and you notice that the T of chante before the ENT is activated. Il danse. Tu dessines. We don't pronounce the ES, but we pronounce the N just before the ES. A little bit harder now, with just an infinitive and the beginning of a sentence that you need to complete using the correct form of the present tense. Elle imagine. She imagines. She's imagining. Le garçon. Le garçon is the boy, so it can be replaced by he. So what's the ending of the sentence? Le garçon marche. Third person, singular. Nous pensons. Il plaisante. Les gens means the people, therefore it's going to be they. Travaillent. Le bébé pleure. Vous regardez. La fille, the girl, she, étudie. Just a little conjugation task for you to finish with. You have a short email and verbs in the infinitive. What you need to do is to put these verbs into the correct form of the present tense. Conjugate them, in other words. You can pause the video and write down your answers if you prefer, or you can just go through the answers with me as I read the text. So, vous êtes prêts? C'est parti! Bonjour, je m'appelle Franck et j'ai 18 ans. Le week-end, je joue souvent au football et ma sœur étudie le français. Mon frère regarde la télé et mes parents danse le samedi au club de danse. Avec ma famille, le dimanche, nous marchons dans le parc. Je pense que c'est super. Et toi, tu joues au foot? Au revoir, Franck. Félicitations, you've completed lesson number 3. I would suggest that you compile a list of useful ER verbs that you can use in normal conversation and you can use and be confident with, and practice conjugating them, of course. But in the meantime, au revoir et à bientôt for lesson number 4.